Jose, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Mark doesn't have the link.
He doesn't have what?
He doesn't have the link.
I sent it to him. Zoom sent it to him actually.
Okay, can I give you his email or do you have it? Mark at AIB2B.org. He wants me to send it to him.
Okay, I'll send it to him.
Do you have his email?
Yeah, I'll have to get Zoom to send it to him.
Why, we're not allowed to just cut and paste?
Yeah, I'm gonna see how I can. I'm gonna see if I can add him here that we have a live here.
Wait a minute, I have this link. Am I allowed to just cut and paste it and send it to him?
No, that one's yours, specifically to you.
Uh-huh.
So I have to send him one. So let me just get his.
Does Mark not have it?
I can give you his email.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Mark, M-A-R-C, at AI, so the letter A, the letter I, the letter B, the number 2, the letter B.org.
Okay, I'll send it to him right now.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
You can, we can just send him Todd's link and then you can change his name after he accesses the link.
I can just email it to him.
We can do that. Maybe that's it. Well, I'm glad Todd's on.
Yeah, Todd's on.
Yeah, but Mark, okay. I just called him because I didn't realize I was a host.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been going back and forth with him, confirming that he's got everything, and he's been saying yes, that he has everything. Okay. I just sent it to him.
Do you have his phone number?
Yeah, I'm actually texting with him right now.
Okay, good.
I just saw him and then he bumped out. Oh, there he is. Okay, there he is. There he is.
Hello, Todd. And I see a seal.
Hey, Mark.
Right now. How are you?
Good, I'm glad you're in. Good. Thank you.
Good. All right. We should have, I think people should be joining in. I emailed the link out. And is there any way to record this as well? Because I think we're going to have people that, couldn't join at this specific time slot. Maybe they're at work. And then if, Jose, is there any way you could just email that out so I can, blast it on, our organization's website?
Yes, it is. I just started recording it, so it's recording.
Wonderful. Now. Great. Yeah. And I guess it's not yet 2, so I want to stick to the time boundaries and make sure that we start promptly at 2. We got 2 minutes. Todd, thanks for taking the time to do this and to.
Oh, you don't have to, Mark, for goodness sakes, you don't have to thank me. We need to talk about these issues. I mean, they're swirling around in society right now, and they couldn't be more important.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in light of all the Asian attacks and everything. So, I really want to kind of hear, I have quite a few questions for you, but, we'll also take questions from the audience. So if you just type in the chat box, I know we have Jennifer that's on right now, but we're going to get some more people join in a little bit. Let's see.
How many people did you mail the link to?
I mailed the link to 25 people. 25 people RSVP to this. Yeah, so I don't know if they're having a hard time, but Jennifer's in because she got the link. So I'm gonna email everyone else again and make sure that they got the link. Let me see. Here it is. Send again. Now. Okay, I just resent it to a bunch of people. Okay, I think more people are joining in now. All right. Got 1 more minute left. Has it been busy for you, Todd? I'm sure it's nonstop, right?
I'm at the Pacific Club right now in Newport Beach. I just I just ran down here, gave us a quick speech to 100 people, and I just grabbed a room and logged into Zoom, and then I'm gonna jet out of here and go see my daughter's softball game. Then I'm jet out of there and go to a reception tonight. Never ends.
Nice. Busy man. And actually, now that you say it, because I go to the Pacific Club so often, that does look very familiar. Which room is that? You're not in one of the phone booth rooms, right? This is one of the bigger rooms.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all marked on the outside. I don't know. Somebody escorted me in here. I just grabbed it and logged in. I don't know what room I'm in.
It's great. Well, let's get started. It's 2:00 and I know we have a time boundary and we want to cut out right at 2:30. And the people that, if they're having issues getting in, you can catch the replay of this and we'll go from there. But yeah, Todd is our Orange County district attorney, and we're honored to have you talk to our group. And, I wanted today to have a little bit of a flavor on, talking a little bit about the Asian attacks, and also love to hear from you regarding also what's going on with LA County and how that affects Orange County. And I know they put in a very controversial DA there. So your counterpart in Los Angeles is really not prosecuting any cases, which is shocking to a lot of victims. And, and I know that they're trying to get that ideology into Orange County. So I would love to touch upon that as well. But I'm going to give the floor over to Todd if you want to just introduce yourself, and then we can have a conversation after that.
Yeah, no, great. Thank you so much, Mark. It's really a pleasure to be here. And I see Pam Ragland on the call. So hi, Pam. Yeah, please put your questions in the chat if you're interested. Just as some background, the Orange County District Attorney's Office is the 3rd largest prosecutorial office in the state of California and the 6th in the entire nation. I run the largest law firm here in Orange County, which we have over 300. We have 300 lawyers that work for the district attorney's office, 900 employees, and we prosecute about 70,000 cases a year. So, I mean, we are a significant force in what's going on in Orange County. And we obviously prosecute the, kind of the bread and butter garden variety crimes that you all hear about. Obviously homicides and sexual assault. We do insurance fraud and other kinds of fraud. We prosecute all the felonies in the county, and then we prosecute all the misdemeanors except for the city of Anaheim. They do their own misdemeanors. And the city of Huntington Beach prosecutes some of their, what I call broken windows crimes, vandalism, loitering, drunk in public, urinating in public, things like that, that affect their downtown and the quality of life in the downtown, and that it could affect their businesses. I'm a very pro-business and pro-prosecution prosecutor. I started in the DA's office over 30 years ago as a line prosecutor. And then I got elected to the Board of Supervisors. From there, I got elected to the state legislature. After that, I went back to the Board of Supes, then back to the Board of Supervisors, and then now as district attorney. So I've been in this arena now for, 32 years, which is pretty hard to believe. And, I wake up every day. My job is, and my number one goal is to protect Orange County, our quality of life, and to make sure people are safe. And it's not whether you have a sense of you're safe, it's really, are you safe? And certainly what's going on with hate crimes, we can get into, because I just announced this week the creation of my hate crime unit in the district attorney's office. We have been very vigorous and assertive about prosecuting hate crimes, but I created the unit because as I've been going around the county on listening tours, speaking lately at a lot of Asian community events, one of the things that people don't really understand is, what is a hate crime? How do they report it? And what can the prosecution and police do about it? And so I figured, you know what, by creating a unit, people will really understand, one, it's a very high priority, but then they'll know that there are resources available to help them in the community. So I'm happy to have any conversation and talk about any issue you want to talk about more.
Yeah, so Todd, I want to expound upon the hate crime. So there is a school of thought that, a crime is a crime. Why, first of all, add a hate on top of it, which conjectures on intent, right? What is the added benefit of that? And practically speaking, what is the Orange County hate crime unit that you're spearheading doing to increase sentencing, or how does that manifest itself upon the sentencing process?
So, first of all, prosecuting hate crimes requires a certain level of expertise. And I wanted prosecutors and investigators who understand the law and understand what is necessary to get convictions in cases. Because what I'm trying to do, Mark, is send a very strong message throughout the community that if you're a hater and you engage in hate and hate crimes, and I'll explain those differentiations in a minute, then you're going to be prosecuted. I mean, I am not tolerating hate in Orange County. Look, I don't care what the color of your skin is and what your physical characteristics are, who you love, who you want to be in a relationship with. Those are protected classes. Our sexual orientation, our physical characteristics, our religious beliefs, those are protected against people trying to stomp on our ability to express ourselves as we see fit. And as long as it's legal, ethical, and moral, you have every right to behave how you want to behave. And I'm not there to judge your lifestyle or how you interact. I mean, everybody has a right to feel free and have their life be respected. So be that basic foundation. There are people in society today that are just haters. And I'll give you an example. I'm prosecuting right now a white supremacist. He's got a swastika tattooed on his chest. He had his shirt off. He's very proud that he's got the swastika. He is he's been convicted several times of hate crimes in Orange County. He's gone to prison for hurting people based on hate. And he attacked an African American woman in Fullerton, and she pepper sprayed him. She got away. And then, but what he said to her, she was pregnant at the time. He said, "I'm going to drop your baby." I mean, as if an African American woman should not have children, according to him. So, he was very aggressive, very physical, and he was subsequently arrested by the police. He's now looking at 38 years to life. The judge in the case who was assigned the case tried to get the guy off easy. He was going to give him 3 years in prison. And I went to the judge and told the judge myself that was completely unacceptable. The judge backed off a little bit and offered 5 years. The defendant took the deal at 5 years. I appealed that to the Court of Appeal, and the Court of Appeal reversed and said that judge was an abuse of discretion. In other words, the hate crimes are there to be enforced under the appropriate circumstances. Mm-hmm. So by vigorously prosecuting hate crimes, I'm sending a very strong message that if you engage in that behavior, you're going to be prosecuted. I literally want to scare people who are haters in the community. I want them to know that there are serious consequences in Orange County. Let me explain what a hate crime is. So there is the crime, being a hate crime is not a crime in and of itself. You have to have committed some kind of underlying act. For example, if you paint a swastika on somebody's garage door and you know a Jewish family lives at that location, and you can prove that you can show that it was a Jewish family and the person knew it was a Jewish family, and they put a swastika, which is obviously a very anti-Jewish symbol, painted on their house, just like burning a cross in the front yard of an African-American family. Then you have the underlying act, which the painting of the swastika is a vandalism. And the motivation for painting the vandalism was hate. And so that's a hate crime. I can tie the underlying crime, vandalism, to the motivation being hate. If you assault somebody, you probably saw in New York, an Asian woman was knocked to the ground, kicked in the head. She was assaulted by actually an African-American male who had just been released from prison for having murdered his mother. And so he attacked her on the streets of New York, and it was because she was Asian. And I prosecuted recently a man who went after a transgender woman in the city of Costa Mesa with a skateboard and hit that woman in the head with a skateboard. And he made comments that he hated transgenders and people who were trying to change their sexual orientation. So you can see the crime itself was assault with the skateboard, but the motivation was motivated by hate and hatred. So those are hate crimes. Hate incidents are not criminal. So if I walk up to you and I say something to you, Mark, that's derogatory and negative, it might be about the way you look, your skin color, your hair, something that might be a physical characteristic of your background. Mm-hmm. The words themselves are not criminal. In other words, as long as I keep my distance and I'm not threatening you, but I yell a bunch of just horrible things at you, there are some certain First Amendment protections where it crosses the line from hate speech to action. Is, let's say I got this close to you and you was yelling in your face. Let's say I got close to you and raised my fist while I was yelling those words. Now you're starting to get closer and closer from an act of words to an act that's criminal in nature and where you have a right to protect yourself. Mm-hmm. And why does it make a difference? That's what you asked me. Because a hate crime adds more exposure for prison time than, say, the underlying crime, and it's called an enhancement. So yes. You may have heard in Los Angeles, the DA there, George Gascon, and other DAs across the country, they call themselves progressives. Chesa Boda in San Francisco, Len Krasner in Philadelphia, Dinah Becton in Contra Costa County. They don't believe that you should add enhancements like, you did a robbery and you used a gun. Well, you did the robbery, we're not going to add the gun charge because that's an enhancement, it adds extra time. They don't believe in enhancements and they don't believe in adding those additional charges. So in Orange County, I'm very vigorous about that. I'm not shy at all about using the appropriate charges under the appropriate circumstances. We don't throw the book at everybody just for any reason. We do it when it's an appropriate circumstance. So when I told you about this guy named Mayfield, the white supremacist in Fullerton, I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison. He is a hater. He attacks people indiscriminately, and he has no business living or being on our streets. And so I'm trying to get him in prison and not even eligible for parole for 38 years. Most likely he'll die in prison. And you know what? That's where he needs to be. I'm not shy or apologetic about the fact that some people just need to go and be separated from society as long as possible.
Amen to that. So typically, I know it's a case-by-case basis to figure out how serious that enhancement is going to be. But is there a rule of thumb that when it's race related, and I know you cited the transgender case, those situations, is there equality across the board? Because I have a concern that I'm really all about fairness in law, and I don't think that one race or one protected class should have more serious sentencing in terms of enhancements than another. And I feel like, when we are, as a society, are pushing, say, Black Lives Matter, then suddenly are we supposed to be, more, lenient to certain classes or more harsh on certain classes? How does that work as far as fairness being instituted in that process?
Well, one of the biggest factors, I mean, is what is a victim looking for? What happened to the victim? How serious are the consequences? Are the injuries serious? You get hit in the head with a skateboard, you could be seriously injured. When somebody came after you and said, I'm going to drop your baby and attacked you, yeah, you're going to be fearful. But Mayfield didn't connect, but he connect physically and hurting her. But he has connected in the past and physically assaulted other people of color in the past. So we look at, what happened to the victim? How serious are the injuries? What is the background of the defendant? Do they have prior convictions? Have they been convicted of hate before? Are they, like systemic haters? And has anything we've done to try to get their attention, like put them in county jail or, get them counseling, whatever, has it gotten their attention? And at some point, like with Mayfield, nothing has gotten his attention. I mean, I don't know many people who tattoo a swastika as large as possible across their chest and stomach. And that's a pretty darn good indication that he is absolutely wedded to the beliefs of anti-Semitism and Adolf Hitler, right? So we look at those factors and what we call factors in aggravation, factors in mitigation, and then we try to balance that to what we're going to ask the judge to impose as an appropriate sentence. Sometimes we enter into negotiations and we actually agree on a disposition or a punishment. Sometimes the defense goes to the judge and gets an offer from the judge. So it's like scales of justice, right? We're always balancing different factors to try to get to the right place.
Now, as far as Orange County as a whole, I know, as an Orange County resident, I feel like we're protected more, especially with these Asian attacks. There's a lot less incidents, I believe, in Orange County than, say, in other counties, and even LA is better than San Francisco. Can you speak to kind of the macro trends that you're seeing, and then maybe why that's the case? And I'm assuming it's because of your tough on crime stance.
Well, I mean, that's a really interesting question because it's very hard to measure whether we are
per capita.
Okay, so let me back off. I'll back up a minute. I have prosecuted more hate crimes in the last 2 years since I've been the DA than they prosecuted in the prior 20 years. That could be a factor of there's more hate, or there's more reporting because people are now more comfortable to report, where in the past, and quite frankly, still largely amongst Asian and API, they still don't want to report hate crime. But I think that the Asian community is doing such an outstanding job in terms of educating the population of how to report hate crimes and why it's so important to report a hate crime, that I think we're getting a lot more of that than we have in the past. And it could be because we're being much more aggressive, and it could be because there's more hate. I do believe there's a lot more hate. I think our country is significantly divided, more divided than I've ever seen in my 60 years of being around. And to me, it's very, very sad. We are very much a blended society. And what's happening is there's a lot of people who are threatened by the fact that we have, we're blended and we all live together amongst each other. There's some people who are very threatened by the way our country is changing. And I think that's very, very sad. So the good news is our numbers have been relatively low in Orange County. So, Asian hate crime, Mark, has increased about 150% in the last year. Well, 150% is less than doubling, right, of what happened in the past. So if we had 4 Asian hate crimes in the last year. Then you'd go to 6 and you'd be up 150%.
Right.
6 is not a big number. It's not anything I find acceptable. But in Orange County, I think it is because the police and the sheriff and the DA are so aggressive about taking care of business when people are engaged in these crimes. We're sending a message that if you engage in this behavior, you're going to be prosecuted. And that, honestly, that's exactly the message I want to send.
Right. And so I'm interested, what is the raw numbers of, what's going on in Orange County as far as these Asian hate crimes?
Well, the very interesting thing is that Asian hate crimes have been in the news, front page, front and center, I mean, right, for months, and especially after 6 women were killed in Atlanta, Georgia. And let me just say there's something interesting, right? The DA in Atlanta ran on one of these progressive platforms that she would never impose a death penalty. Well, she just announced that she's seeking the death penalty for the murder of 8 people, which was, there were 6, I think I have that right. There's 6 people were murdered, 4 were.
6 were Asian, and then the other 2 that were murdered were non-Asian.
Okay, so she now has said for the 8 murders that, right, at 2 different establishments, I think different parts of the cities, 2 different counties, that she's seeking the death penalty because there's just some crimes that are so egregious. Well, wait a minute, you campaigned on this platform that you weren't going to seek the death penalty. One of the things I'm dealing with now, just as an aside, I have this, horrible murder in the city of Orange where 4 people were killed.
Yes.
And I'm now in the process of working on evaluating whether or not I'll be seeking the death penalty in that particular case. But that's a subject for another day. But I only bring it up because these are such serious cases. I mean, the defendant, the person who was arrested, said that he committed the murders because he had a sex addiction. He murdered these women because they were Asian. All right. And yet they're very reluctant to file these hate crimes. I am very aggressive when it comes to filing these hate crimes because I feel that you really need to send that message throughout our society.
Right. So so you don't actually have any numbers as far as, because I feel like yes, we had this case in Orange with the 4 murdered. I don't think, was that a hate crime or was that
no. I was just bringing that as an example that in Atlanta, they are seeking the death penalty. But so I have the case of the Korean-American woman who was driving her car in Fullerton. A gentleman, I shouldn't have said that, a male, who was motivated by hate against Koreans, threw a rock through her front windshield. She had her child in the backseat of the car. To her credit, she was able to keep her composure and get her car to a place of safety where she called the police. And he was arrested and we're prosecuting him for a hate crime. So we had that crime. And then, but I will tell you, Mark, it's really interesting. While Asian hate has been on the front pages of the news and leading the news on television almost every single night, knock on wood, okay, Mark? We have not seen those kinds of incidents.
That's what I was thinking. I can't think of one.
Well, the one I told you about in Fullerton.
Just one.
Well, yeah, and we're slowly but surely getting these cases as they trickle in, but we are not seeing the kinds of issues that other parts of the country are seeing.
Yeah, and even compared to LA and definitely from the Bay Area, Oakland has always been a hot spot for that. Now, Asians are experiencing a lot of property crime. Have you noticed any of that? And we have clear cities here in Orange County like Westminster, Fountain Valley, Irvine that are very heavy Asian population. Are you seeing a lot of that going on? And how do you go about prosecuting that?
What do you mean in terms of property crimes? Thefts or vandalism?
Burglaries, people breaking into homes. That's been a real problem in LA actually. And I was a victim of property crime in Cerritos, just across the border in LA County. And my vehicle got stolen, was found in Compton like 12 days later. That was tagged as a very common occurrence actually.
Yeah, well, let me mention that. So let me make it unequivocally clear. a lot of the policy decisions that have been made in California, I'm talking about Assembly Bill 109. AB 109 was an effort by the legislature to reduce our prison population. So what they did is they said low-level offenders, they're talking about people who just steal our stuff, okay? They don't hurt us, they just steal our personal property. They're low-level offenders, so they don't need to go to state prison. Let's put them in our county jails and we can release them back into our community on community supervision. Well, after AB 109 passed, crime skyrocketed, especially stolen vehicles, just like your situation. And the California Public Policy Institute, which is a think tank, did a statistically significant analysis, including regression analysis and the like. And what they determined is there was an absolute correlation between AB 109 and vehicle theft and property crimes. And this is the deal. The legislature, in its infinite wisdom, made the decision to take theft, which used to be a misdemeanor, was under $400, a felony greater than $401, right, or greater, and make that $950.
Right, increase the threshold.
They took away my ability, if I convicted you, let's say, of theft, and you had a conviction as a misdemeanor for theft, and you got another conviction within the term of probation, 3 years, whatever, I could charge you, I could at least consider charging a felony because you had a new theft with a prior conviction for theft. In other words, as you decided to steal more, we could get more serious in our punishment. Legislature took that away. The 10 Walgreens in the city of San Francisco are closing their doors because they are getting about $1,000 a day per store stolen, and they can no longer afford to stay in business because Chesa, the district attorney of San Francisco, will not prosecute petty theft as a crime.
Oh my goodness.
And what's happening, Mark, in our cities is in George Gascon, Chesa, they don't want to prosecute what we call our quality of life crimes. The things that if you don't do, it changes our cities. Like, if you leave broken windows, that's what they call it, broken window syndrome. If you leave broken windows broken in your community, you leave tagging or vandalism on the side of buildings in your city, it changes the complexity of your communities and everything starts to degrade. So if there's graffiti, it's got to get painted out right away so that it doesn't take over our communities. Well, when you don't prosecute vandalism, drunken public, petty theft, loitering, things like that, then what happens is you have, just drive to LA. There's tent cities everywhere. There's homeless people living everywhere without any regard for law or order. San Francisco, the same thing. There's needles in the street. There's human waste in the street. These cities have gone by the wayside. And when I was a county supervisor and we had the homeless living on the riverbed next to Angel Stadium, I built the first homeless shelter in my district. And we told the people, you have to get off the riverbed and you either go over to the shelter or you have to move on. And so we were able to clear the riverbed. And that was not going to be the gateway in what our county was going to look like. So these kinds of day-to-day prosecutions of holding people accountable, but I want to talk about empathy because I think it's really important for people to understand. Mark, everybody shouldn't be just thrown in jail. Okay, that's not the answer. Jails have been used as a sorry excuse as mental institutions for the longest time. We do not handle our mentally ill properly or people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol. We tend to put them in jail and then because we just want to forget about them and we don't have good places to take care of these situations.
Right.
So we have engaged in mass incarceration, which is what Black Lives Matter has indicated. We have over incarcerated because we haven't put in the appropriate resources to help people. But what I want you to know is for the serious and violent felons and those who are destroying our communities, that is exactly what our jails and prisons are and should be for. And that needs to happen.
So now, as far as non-jail solutions to curtailing this negative criminal behavior, what are some smart ways? And I was thinking in my head is really working with the DA's office should be working with groups, community groups like ours, where we can we should be in constant contact and talking to you about community issues like property crime or say prostitution down the street, and also organization. I know you work with Patricia from the Crime Survivors Pact, and people that are doing great work out in the community. What is the way a good DA and good partnerships? What does that look like? Because we want to be part of the solution as well.
Well, we obviously are recording this and we're taking notes, and we want to invite you and anybody else on this call or any of your members to sit on my advisory committees. I have advisory committees that I meet with quarterly from all different aspects of the community to understand what's going on in the community, to be responsive to complaints, to help drive public policy that makes our quality of life better. Okay, and so you asked me, what am I doing? I created what's called the Recidivism Reduction Unit. I get sick and tired of seeing the same people go in and out of the system constantly. They commit a crime, they go to jail, they get released, they go out, they commit a crime. Nothing changes in their behavior.
Right.
So we have mental health courts, and we try to deal specifically with people who are committing crimes and have mental health issues. We have drug and alcohol courts where people who drive under the influence and are repeat offenders and could go to state prison, we get them the kind of help with their addiction that they've really been struggling with for a long time and have not been able to get the help that they need. So I feel I have, and I'm working on a mental health unit in the DA's office to start. I mean, think about this. Somebody gets arrested and they go to jail. And for most crimes, they're going to be released on their own recognizance or a small amount of bail. And they're going to be given a date to come back to court 90 days from the day they were arrested. Well, the crisis or the incident they had was, say, on day 1. But I'm not going to see them, or they're not going to come back to court till day 90. Why am I not dealing with the issue that they has infiltrated their life? Why am I not dealing with that as soon as or at near to the time of the crisis they were having? And so we now have a crisis center in Orange County called Be Well. And it's in my old supervisorial district. It's on Anita Street in the city of Orange. And it's a place we can take people who are in crisis to get them help while they are in crisis. And my prosecutors are being trained to get involved and get us involved at the time that we get the case for filing, which is within 48 hours of an arrest, to immediately start to deal with the affliction that is integrated into that person's life. So we have all kinds of different courts, mental health court, and veterans court, and driving under the influence court. We have specialized courts with well-trained prosecutors who can really try to help make a difference in the defendant's life.
Okay, so I'm a little concerned because, I have a psychology degree and I am very disgusted by the psychology industry, which is why I went to get my MBA after. I really am not crazy about all of the social worker things. And, I feel like a lot of mental health is a lot of a waste of time and a waste of our taxpayer resources. What are we doing to make sure that, and I think in intent, it's good, but are we tracking the results of these, nonprofits, or these governmental agencies and, the social workers and the mental health professionals? I use that loosely at times, to make sure that, they're actually being effective in getting to the problem and solving the problem rather than just being an enabler or a babysitter.
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to answer your question directly because that wasn't a question. You have strong opinions, which you voiced, which is fine, which is totally fine with me. But one of the things we don't do well is we dispatch the police to every kind of call, including mental crisis calls. And oftentimes when people are in distress, they can be very violent or potentially violent. So let me give you an example. In the city of in the city of Anaheim, they're experimenting and doing a pilot with a dual dispatch system. So for certain kinds of crime based upon the dispatch's training, they won't send the police at all. They're going to send a team of social workers and crisis intervention workers to deal with the person in the field who needs help to help provide services. Oftentimes, when the police go to a call, when somebody's in crisis, it ends up turning worse. That the police end up using force because the person's in crisis, and now the police feel threatened, and it escalates into a terrible situation. I am very, very excited about the success that the city of Anaheim seems to be having, and other jurisdictions are considering also dispatching maybe with the police, a crisis. We have some crisis teams that do go and are in the police car with the police and do go to certain calls to try to help people who are in crisis. But I'm just saying, as a model of society through our policing, we really need to rethink how we send the police to every kind of call,
Right,
that are crisis oriented, because the police are not trained to deal with mental illness and mental crises. They're trained to de-escalate, and then if they can't de-escalate, they're trained to use the force necessary to stop the particular incident. But we all know, just say Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, we know that situations get worse oftentimes when the police are not equipped to properly handle a situation.
right. And I definitely recognize that, even though I have strong opinions. So, but I wanted to address some of the chat questions before we wrap up. Enhancements are crimes in the penal code. Is that correct?
Yeah, so, yeah, of course. So I'll give you an example. Great bodily injury. So I assault you with a deadly weapon, like I hit you with my fist. But I break your nose and I break your jawbone, and your jawbone is protruding through, its compound coming through your skin. That I used assault with a deadly weapon, but I also caused great bodily injury. So you can add more jail time or more exposure when the injuries and the force used is more serious, and those are reflected by adding enhancements. Or I'll give you an example. You could do a robbery. I could walk into a 7-Eleven, keep my hands in my pocket and say, make my fingers or fists or my knuckles look like a gun. And I can tell the clerk, hey, give me all your money or I'm going to shoot you with this gun. I never show you a gun. I don't have a gun. Well, that's a robbery. But if I actually pull out a weapon and it is a gun, I can add the use of a firearm as an enhancement.
Right. And then Pam has a good question here. It's pretty long, but I'll read it.
I've never known Pam Ragland to ask anything short. I've never.
That's right. It's an essay, but we love Pam. So OCDA office prosecuting mask issues under the guise of trespass. How do you answer that? And Todd, I know you can see the rest of the question, I think.
I'm trying to look.
Okay, I'll read it to you. I wonder if the DA knows forcing a mask violates CIV 51, which protects various types of civil rights. Does the DA know these mandates violate California health and safety codes since they are experimental, and blanket mask mandates are therefore all illegal? Does the DA know? Okay, I'll let you answer that first.
So, all right. So, man, I don't know if I want to wade into this part of the conversation, because I saw what happened at the Board of Supervisors yesterday or on Tuesday. One of the county supervisors is dialing my phone right now, actually. So look, a business has a right. A business is a private establishment. And if a business believes that its guidelines in order to stay open require you to wear a mask, it can require you to wear a mask. And if you don't like it for a private business, the private business has the right to ask you to leave. And if you don't leave, you're trespassing. people, well, a store can't make me wear a mask. Well, absolutely they can. It's private property. It's a private business. And
Yes.
they have a right. Sometimes they say it at the door, we have a right to refuse service to anybody. So now government agencies, different analysis, but I'm just saying that, I'm at establishment now. I wore a mask when I came in. I took it off when I spoke. Most of the people weren't wearing masks. When I walk out of this room in a few minutes after I finish doing this, I'll put my mask on as a courtesy to other people. I'm vaccinated. I'm not worried about it. I don't think I'll contract COVID, but my point is I do it as a courtesy to other people. I don't know what their condition is. Maybe they're particularly vulnerable, susceptible. I just think it's an appropriate courtesy, and businesses can require it.
Okay, Pam asserts it's not true, but look at Civ 51, but we'll leave it at that. Yeah, I want to wrap it up now. Thanks for your time, Todd. I know when we originally scheduled this, we wanted to do this in person, but are you back to in-person events? Or obviously you're at the Pacific Club right now, so.
Yeah, no, you're right. I just spoke in the other room, and tonight I think I'm going to a reception.
Okay.
For a big association here in Orange County. So yeah, I'm out and about, and it's really great to see people again. I'm very happy to see people in person.
Good, and I heard you're vaccinated, so I'm glad. I hope that you can save the date for June 5th. I'd love for you to come to our gala for our
just shoot us an email. I'll do my best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then finally, are you planning to run for Attorney General or higher office? We'd love to support you down the line.
No. Okay, listen, I love this state, but I don't know what direction the state's going. I have a lot of concerns about the direction of California's going.
But you're going to run for re-election, I hope.
Yeah, listen, I really love my job. I'm so proud of the work I get to do. It's what I wanted to do my whole life, and I'm very, very happy. I love being a local elected official, and I did the Sacramento thing, and it's just not my thing. I've still got a family I want to be around and attend to. And so, yeah, no, I just want to be here in Orange County.
Great. So yeah, let's help you get reelected, because we have to
Thank
keep Orange
you.
County safe. And,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll let you go. Thank you, Todd. And
All right,
we'll
thank
speak
you,
to you
Mark.
soon.
All right, good to see you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for joining us. Bye-bye.